more okay to talk about mental health, and yeah, and sitting in all of those feelings, which I think is important. And I think my work allows you to, I guess, not bask in it, but experience it in a way where you don't feel guilt for feeling it, you know? And I think that's a big part of it. There's this huge guilt of being extra positive and just always being, you know, on the grind, working and proving something, when it's like, it's hard. You can't be on like that 24/7. And it's not so bad if people see what that looks like when you're not. Like, my work features mostly women, you know? And I think that it's important, especially showcasing Black women in different sizes and what they look like.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to feel normal, like, you know, seeing someone on their period, or like just experiencing things that they go through with in relationships, or, you know, like seeing yourself, you know, to the point where it isn't a question of, is it diverse enough? It's just, oh, I see myself there, you know? Well, the reason I made this, which is different from all the variants that I've seen that people comment and debate about on all of my platforms, is it seems like the media has an okay time expressing, you know, Black man murdered somebody, or Black man died here, or falsely accusing somebody. They can always say the word Black. However, when people want to talk about the situation going on right now, it's always person of color.
Yeah.
If the news can say it, the cops can say it, everyone else can say it. And then when it came down to it in the comments and I began to learn, turns out people just aren't comfortable saying the word Black. And many have been taught that it's a bad word.
Even terms like BIPOC, BIPOC.
Yes, I'm okay with that. But if something is individually happening to one people,
exactly,
then why are we only using this super inclusive word when it's not happening to all of them?
Exactly.
So, you know, because I don't have it. I consider myself a woman of color, but I consider myself Black before anything else, you know? But if it's me and every other ethnicity, people of color, works fine. But it's that distinction where people seem to have a hard time. So they want to feel liberal, but at the same time, they want to be polite. But really what that does is converge at a place where it's complacent and not really speaking to the people about what they want to be called.
This piece, I would love to talk about it. Those of you who know me know that, like, I've stumbled upon the BLM mural and participated in it, posted a picture, and, like, you know, NBC wanted my photo and and I was like, oh, I knew optically how performative it is and looks, and, you know, art very much is part of the movement. But you were like, you know, I'm about to post this cartoon, I hope you don't offend. I'm like, not at all. I was like, my blessing, like, let's talk about it, this is important, right?
Yeah, man, I was mad nervous. I actually had that, I was sitting on that for maybe like 2 weeks, but I was so unsure because I kept seeing all these photos of Black people painting them, and I'm like, well, it's a lot of Black folk, you know, painting Black Lives Matter in the street. And I was like, okay, but I guess my justification was the feeling and how it rang to me. Because, okay, when they did it in front of Trump's place, I was like, all right, cool. It's a big F you to him. Let's do it. Yeah. But then when it started sprouting up everywhere, and Black Lives Matter is now a very okay term to use. If you told me this happened 10 years ago when everyone wanted to stab someone for saying Black Lives Matter, I'd understand it then. But now it is so PC to say it, where it's like, it's very okay, like you have it outside the front of your door, like in your yard. Like, I've seen it, I went upstate the other week and I saw Black Lives Matter, like little picket signs. I'm like, oh, okay, because it's okay to say it now.
Yeah.
So then to see across the nation people doing it in this form of solidarity, like, I understand that they did it out of solidarity, but it just felt very complacent.
Yeah.
Because there were definitely some where they did the names of people who were murdered by police and others that I thought, okay, yes, this makes sense. People don't know who these people are. That makes sense to me. But all of these other paintings, I'm just like, I don't get it. What are you guys doing locally? Y'all spending money on this? Whose money is this?
Right.
So yeah, it was a big tug of war, like, internally, to understand that. This painting is actually of my boyfriend sleeping. And I like talking about the series that I did for this because it's centered around men, and Black men specifically, which I feel as though are not allowed to be vulnerable in a way that expresses softness or anything conceivable that could be feminine. So I thought it was really nice and very touching to, you know, watch someone sleep, and I love it. But the reaction that I got was very different when it showed, because a lot of men would approach it and it was kind of like, well, why are they all men's arms? You know, like, is this a reference towards someone homosexual, and it's very it tackles a lot of issues, but I think it's also a strong point to mention that it makes them more comfortable knowing it's portrayed by a woman versus being made by a man. So that's also lent, you know, some aid to me in terms of like approaching men about certain portraits and things like that. But I think it's super important because, you know, the body positivity movement is doing wonders with women, but you don't see the same thing for men. Do you know how hard I have to harass men to model for me? Like, especially if they're like chubbier.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, can I keep my tank top on? And I'm just like, damn, I wish, you know, women stopped going through this a while ago, but now it's very difficult for them to be comfortable in their bodies and see representation in a way that they are revered and not seen as weak, you know? The piece is called Big Hug, and it's something that I feel like black men don't get to talk about, or they don't have the space for. There's all kinds of healing circles for women, but like men don't get that same space to be held in that way. And it's funny because, you know, it's someone being held, but yes. I don't, like, people have asked me a couple of times, is this my therapy? But it's kind of like writing in a journal. You don't know that it's doing any good until you like leave it, you know? So the real therapy is knowing how many people relate, because you feel like less in your head and less upset even, because it's not just you going through it. So that helps me as well, because, you know, and then the people will write their stories, and it's like we're all reading from the same book, which is wild to me, but that's the human experience, you know? And then the Black experience as well, which is something I'm realizing, and yeah.